What's good, guys? It's Willie with the Right from Wrong podcast. Everybody's done a little right, everybody's done wrong. We're trying to get right in the end, helping people get right too. With that being said, I got the honor and privilege to have Miss Nadine on today. She had me on her podcast, and I was blessed to be able to journey with her. So we're going to bring her on right now.
What's
How you doing,
poppin',
girl?
man? I'm chilling. I'm
Hey,
chilling. How's it going?
good. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
I know you've
of
been a busy
course.
woman today, as you always are.
I'm trying.
I was like, I mentioned I had the honor and privilege to be on your podcast recently. So thank you for that. First off, I got to learn a little bit more about you, so I know where I'm coming with my questions.
I
How
hit it,
about you
man. I'm ready.
introduce yourself, kind of tell the people your name, a little bit about yourself, get going.
All right. First, I want to apologize for any coughing that happens in this podcast. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm pushing through.
Oh,
So my name is Nadine Hilton, and I'm a new real estate investor. I would say I got started actively this past April. I've been looking at real estate investing for years. And when I say years, I mean like 8 years, and definitely suffer from analysis paralysis. So, I am a physician by trade. That's my 9 to 5 job. So I spend a lot of time reading things, research, and analyzing stuff before I take the next step. And I was stuck there. I was stuck in there. I got all the information that I needed to get, but no action taken. And there's this saying that if it was just about lack of information, everyone would have a 6 pack and a big bank account, because there's enough information out there about how to lose weight and how to get rich, but it's the action that really matters. And I definitely fell victim to that. So, but something this year really sparked me. Because I'm not a risk taker by nature. That's not my default. Like, I need to know all the steps and the outcome before I take the first step, which doesn't make sense in real life, but that's kind of how I operate. And so I needed to know, if I take this step, it was all going to be good. And that's the only way that's going to happen is if I have a mentor, a teacher, or a community behind me. And so that's why I started looking at Bigger Pockets, because it seemed like a really good community to meet with people and get people who are smarter than me to kind of mentor me and show me something. But I came across Pace Morby by accident on one of the Bigger Pockets podcasts this year, and I was stuck. And he talked about what he does, his community. Then I started to research and do all that stuff, and within 2 weeks I joined the community, and because I felt comfortable that, okay, this is what I've been waiting on, this is what's going to help me take that first step. And even if I mess up, there are people around that can help me. So I would say from April to now, I've done more research, and I actually got my first deal yesterday. I
oh,
closed on it yesterday. It was not a
oh,
creative deal, but it was the first step to my real investing journey. So I'm excited. I mean, it's so fresh. I didn't even get the keys yet. Because when I tell you we closed, the notary
yeah.
came to my house like 4 p.m. yesterday. We did the documents, but of course it was too late to get the deal funded. So I'm waiting still for the bank to get their money this morning, and then I'll go pick up the keys this afternoon. But still, I'm excited. So that's
Hey,
my story.
congratulations. Well, you
Yes.
touched on a lot of things, right? And you answered some
Yeah.
of the questions yourself, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
You said you're not much of a risk taker. You said you're
I'm
a
not.
physician, bro, right? So let me ask you this: as a physician, you obviously are a smart woman, right? That's
Mhm.
not an easy thing to do, right? So salute for that first off.
Yeah.
Um, and if you researched for 8 years, right? You said you had analysis paralysis, so I understand that. We want to touch on why that was. What I'm curious is, if you did that much research, I'm sure you ran across dozens, if not, a couple dozen different type of mentorships, right?
I
And
did.
then you said that you ran across Pace in 2 weeks. You kind of made that decision to jump in, right? So
Yeah.
I know how much it costs. We know how much it costs, right? Any
Yeah.
mentorship itself is a risk,
Yeah.
right? So what was it about the sub two community Pace itself that, because it seems like to me that it almost eliminated the risk for you, right? But at the same
Mhm.
time, there's really no difference in it. And we know there is now that we're in it, right? But when
Yeah.
you're on the outside looking in, because I felt the same way. It
Mhm.
was a lot for me to want to, like, can I do this right now? Can I handle this? What
Yeah.
was it about Pace or the community? It really made you feel like, all right, this is finally time. Because that seems like a short time span, right? two
It
weeks doesn't seem
was.
very
It
long,
really was.
right? Especially for somebody who says that they're not a risk taker, somebody who says that they have analysis paralysis. That seems like the complete opposite to me.
So I'll say this: when my paralysis was does the person who's speaking to me know what they're talking about? That's first thing, right? I need to verify that you actually are an expert in your field. Like, I don't want to take advice from just any Joe Blow on the street. That's just not who I am. Then the second thing is he a guru or a fraud? That's my second thing. Like, what's okay? What's his angle? What's he trying to get at? Is it join now for the low price of 195, and then it just ramps up and that sort of thing. But he came off as very genuine, and I don't remember which podcast it was that I saw him on. I think Bigger Pockets was having some sort of conference or something. And two other people were sitting down talking, and he just kind of walked by the studio that they were filming in, and they kind of stopped him. And they were like, "Oh, hey, here's Pace Morby," and they mentioned that he had sponsored their segment, like he just whatever it takes to give money and sponsor the segment. But so it wasn't like planned, it wasn't orchestrated. It seemed very natural that he was just walking by and they're like, "Hey, can you stop by and sit for a minute?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And he sat and he spoke, and they mentioned that he had donated whatever he donated to that part, and he talked about creative financing, which I'd never heard about before. But he was so genuine with it, and just the way he spoke about it, I could tell. First question for me, is he an expert in that field? And it was clear. And then the second part about fraudulent or being a guru trying to sell me something, he didn't. He just sat there and talked. And then he said, if anybody wants to know more, you can check out my videos and all of this. And it was so no pressure that it spoke to me. I could see that he was coming from a point of education and a point of community. So then I went to his videos and I could see he was not pushing himself. He really was pushing the community. He was pushing work with each other. And so I like that. And it spoke to me. So I did my little more research to make sure that he was who he said he was. And there's no outstanding fraudulent claims with the Better Business Bureau or something like that.
Class suits and stuff.
Yeah, something pending or something like that. And it worked. And so I went right in.
Well, I'm really glad that was. I mean, those are awesome answers. I mean, I ask you that because I think a lot of people have those same kind of questions. They're kind of curious as to what to do. I mean, there's so many different mentorships, and this one definitely stands out for a lot of reasons. But up front, again, it's the same thing. I mean, so I'm glad that you've made that journey, first step. Congratulations on your deal. With that being said, what are you focusing on yourself? What are your next couple years look like for you? What does Nadine want to do?
So I have been a physician practicing for over 20 years, right? So I'm not saying I want to retire because I love my job. I like what I do, but I want to work on my own terms. And so mentally, I tell myself I want to go part-time as a physician by the end of 2024. And that's a big statement. And I think by me saying it, it's going to help keep me accountable. I have a daughter who's a senior in college that's supposed to graduate next year. So it kind of lines up that, okay, hopefully she'll be out of my pockets by then. My expenses should go down. And so going part-time is not difficult. But obviously you want to have some other money coming in, and I want to just be in control of my time. And so by becoming a real estate investor full time, that's going to give me the flexibility to do that. And I can still practice when I want to, right? So that might mean a few times a month and once or twice a week, however, but I'm not beholden to the hospital making my schedule. I get to make my own schedule. So that's kind of what I foresee in the next few years, definitely within the next 5 years. In terms of real estate, I have a personal interest in medium term rentals. I like that space. I like that it's a newer space. I like that it's a space that has catered to the medical professionals for a long time. So I like that overlap. So I think ideally my day would be filled with doing things for the medium term rental portion of my business. But I also want to have some long term rentals in the background for that steady cash flow, that generational wealth, and all of that. I think that's important. But, that doesn't typically require your day to day involvement. But, medium term rentals, and then long-term rentals for filling out that portfolio. That's what I want to see my life look like. And then like everybody else, financial freedom, time to do what you want to do, travel, hang with family, things like that.
Awesome. Well, I salute you for the physician status. I mean, I really do respect you that we've had our own medical issues, and without people like you, we would be here doing what we're doing, right? So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Um, it sounds like you have a lot going on. The question you asked me in your podcast, I like it. I might actually steal from you.
Do it.
You have a daughter, right?
Yeah.
You turn real estate stuff. You obviously have a personal life, right?
Yeah.
You got to entertain and stuff. What's a day in the life look like for you?
So right now it's still heavily medical, because I'm just starting. So I'm an OBGYN, and I deal with high risk pregnancies. So, but I work for the hospital, right? So I don't have my own practice anymore, and I like it because what that gives me is flexibility in my schedule. So I work a set number of shifts per month. I go into the hospital, I do whatever I need to do there, and then when I walk out, I leave. There's no patient care afterward. There's no phone calls at night, so that's good. It gives me a lot of free time for when I'm not at the hospital. I can do what I want. It also gives me flexibility to make my schedule how I want to make it. So right now, my time is mostly going to work, for those required shifts. When I'm not at work, um, to be honest, I don't do a lot. I mean, I could be doing so much more, right? I could be going to the gym regularly. I am doing the real estate research. As you know, with the Pace Morby thing, the information is overwhelming. So I could spend days and days just stuck in the Zooms, and I do.
Yeah, fire.
Um, yeah, you can't exhaust all the Zooms that's there. So I do a lot of that. I play with my dog, and I travel. I'm pretty active with my community service organizations, and so we do things with that. But I could be doing a lot more. And I think as I get deeper into this real estate, that time was going to start to transition to more structured real estate focused activities. So yeah. So what do I do in a day when I am working? It's a 12-hour shift, so there's nothing else that happens after that. When I'm not working, hanging around the house, playing with the dog, doing different things on the computer, going to the gym when I'm being good. That's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I do know this about you. And part of what my podcast is about is really just kind of emphasizing people in their journeys, right?
Yeah.
People know my story somewhat. You do now yourself as well. And with that being said, we come from a lot of different paths, right? You mentioned yourself, you're a first generation immigrant
Mhm.
from New York, right? I'm kind of curious as to what that was like for you coming up. I feel like we're kind of close to the same age, kind of same stuff. I'm from Southwest area
I'm
of the
sure I'm much older than you, Drew, but let's go on. We go with it.
Hey, well, I'm giving you love here, right? I mean,
Oh, I
I'm an
appreciate
old
that.
soul. Okay? I'm an old
Yeah,
soul.
yeah.
Right? So I understand, but I know what it was like for me out there, but it immigrants weren't really a bigger thing because I mean we're so close to the border.
Mm.
We kind of had our little stable spots, right? We were just looked at as the way we were looked at. I mean, we touched on this in your podcast, but I'm kind of curious because some of the obstacles you faced. I mean, especially being a physician and somebody of
Yeah.
20 years, like I mean. Only recently have things really changed as far as equality, not to mention just race and just kind of the
Mhm.
other things. I mean, so I'm curious as to what your life was like coming up through that.
Good question. So, my family's from Jamaica. My parents, my older brothers, I was the first one born in America here. And, they immigrated right to New York. And New York has a huge Jamaican Caribbean population. So it's not that out of the norm, but they went to high school, finished high school there. They did not do any college or anything like that. But when they came here, they were very big on education. I remember my mom she's passed away now, but she used to tell everyone one of her first purchases in America was Encyclopedia Britannica, the whole big
Yeah.
collection. And she was like, because she was determined that her kids were going to have education that she didn't have. And so we did. We had the big books, and they were displayed prominently in the living room, and we all used them. That was before internet and all that stuff. But we did. And so my two older brothers and we were first generation to go to college. And, I was not a kid who always wanted to be a physician growing up. I wasn't that kid. I started off college as a psychology major. I was going to be a psychotherapist. And
Interesting.
somewhere toward the end of college, later than it should have been, I decided to go to medical school and become a doctor. So that was stressful trying to fit in all those pre med classes at the last minute, but I did it. And I went on to med school and training and residency and all of that. Growing up, we were poor, and I guess we knew we were poor, but we weren't unhappy poor, right? My dad was the working poor. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She had illnesses all of her adult life. And we didn't have anything. Like we were probably minimum wage family. We lived in one of the toughest parts of Brooklyn. And in the 80s and 90s, when the crack epidemic was huge, we were right in the thick of it. Like when
Yeah.
I tell you, in my house that I grew up in, bullets came through the door often. And that's just stray bullets from around the neighborhood. We've had police officers bang on our front door so that they can run through our house to get to the basement to catch the criminal who's jumping the backyard stuff. It's just crazy. And it's funny when I think back, not funny, but when I think back now, some of the stuff we lived through at that house in Brooklyn, if I tell the stories, it's almost unbelievable. And here's the funny part. We lived 2 blocks from the precinct at that time. And like I said, crack was huge at the time. And I would tell people in my adult life now, in my more refined circles, blah blah blah, how it was when I grew up, and people are like, "Really, you don't seem like that type." And I was like, "Because I didn't go outside, so I wasn't a part of that environment, but I was living in it, but I wasn't the kind of kid that hung out with it." And so, like I said, some of the stories seem outlandish if I were to tell them, but I recognize now there's a documentary about that precinct, and I can't remember the name of it, but there is, I think it was on
Wow.
Hulu or something. There's a
What?
documentary about what that my neighborhood was like and what that precinct was like at the height of the crack epidemic in Brooklyn. And I watched it and I was just like taken aback. I'm like, there's my corner store. You could see my house in the, I mean,
Ah,
it was crazy. And so the stories were talking about how corrupt things were in that precinct. And so it's just like, it's very surreal to see, like, this is what I've been telling people. Like, they didn't believe me, but it was so bad they made a documentary about it. So it's out there. So that I always think that's kind of funny. Like, yeah, see, here's the proof. I'm not lying. This is how it really was back then. But anyway, the challenges with that is we had no money, which was kind of helpful because we got to go to college for free, right?
hey.
In that part.
Side
And
price.
but we had good work ethic and a good push for education in the family, and that really served us all. And so, my mom got her dream, before she died. All her kids went to college and did what they wanted to do with that. So, she got that. And, I try to continue that with my own children. I have 2 children, a son and a daughter, and my daughter's a senior in college now. My son is much older. And, that's how it was coming up, so it's like one of those things where you're in the environment, but you're not really in the environment, luckily.
Understood, understood. I will call you on one thing, so don't be mad at me though.
Do it.
Um, because not we'll go back to the neighborhood part in a minute because I agree with you on a lot of that. You say you're not a risk taker, but how do you get that far in college and then change your major to something like that, girl? You take risks in life.
You know what? Profesora Natividad. I'm sure she's not still alive to see this, but she's the reason why.
Okay.
Part of the reason why I became a doctor. We were taking. She was my Spanish teacher in college, and we were talking in class. And she does one of those. What do you guys want to be when you grow up? And I talked about med school possibly, and she was like, "Oh no, you can't go to med school. You should. Why don't you just be a nurse? You're probably not going to be able to make it in med."
Oh,
And that was the kiss of death. I was like, "What?" And she was said,
oh.
"Yeah, you're probably better off being a nurse. It's really hard to get to med school."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Bet." And that
I
that
see you.
started it, boy. And
I
so,
see.
Professora Natividad, thank you. Wherever you are, she was a lot older back then, so I doubt she's still around. But if you are,
Hey,
appreciate you.
thank you. Thank you for
Thank
judging.
you.
I
Yeah,
know, and you said it's funny. I can relate, right? I didn't know how bad I had it to my 20s as a
yeah,
kid.
yeah.
Because I started being exposed to different people because
Hmm.
I was outside of what I was used to, like you said, outside of my block.
Right,
I
right.
was the kid involved in the neighborhoods and those sorts of things. So
You were
salute
the
to you
one
for that.
I couldn't play with outside.
Yeah, I wasn't the kid that no, I wasn't that kid. Well, it's funny we touched on that. I had so many friends that I tried to be close to that liked me. We were close to. I never would have did them wrong, right?
Hmm.
But their parents knew who my parents were and what I was from, and they kept their kids away from me. They said we couldn't hang
Mm.
out, from third grade all the way through high school, and probably about 7, 8 times. I think out of that, 90% of them are in the pen or gone.
Wow.
and
Look
I'm
at
the only
that.
one that, and I'm like, y'all should let him hang out with me.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to compare my life. I tell people it's a cross between a Fox sitcom and a Lifetime movie.
Mm,
If I told you how it went down, you'd be like, you're lying. So
right.
no, you're completely right. I understand that, and that's why I asked, because it's amazing for us to be able to look back, and we do laugh at it now, because it's like it's a triumph for me personally,
Yeah.
right? To be able to say it's like, wow, it's a shaking head kind of laugh. I can't believe we went through that, right? And just
Hmm.
stories, and to hold my head high and to be so refined, like you said now. You know what I mean? To set
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And that's why I asked about that. That's what this podcast is about for us
Yeah.
too. Is no matter we've been a lot of real estate lately, because that's how they forced me into this. Again, discomfort
Hmm.
is how you grow.
Yes.
But in the future, it's going to be a lot more entrepreneurs, whether it's, welding businesses of my friends, or, they breeding dogs, or poets, or whatever the case may be. I
Hmm.
mean, so again, salute to you for that. Thank you for just being you.
Yeah.
I really am grateful for that. I'm gonna have to look up that documentary. My girl
I'm
is
gonna look it up and I'm gonna send it to you, and you can do a
yeah,
follow up with your viewers because I was shocked to see it, and I was like, and they have some of the footage and it's grainy from the '90s. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was our corner store that we went to all the time, and the corruption in that precinct. Sorry, don't come after me, y'all, but the corruption in that precinct back then was crazy. Like the cops were the biggest drug dealers. It was crazy.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's when we have our own political views, everybody. But I mean,
Yeah,
people know how I feel about the police. Not all of them are bad. I know a lot of good cops out there, a lot of people that are saving lives and doing what they're supposed to, but
yeah,
not enough. Is all I'll
yeah,
say. On that
yeah.
part. You know what I mean? Well, Nadine, I do appreciate you. I could probably keep you here for hours conversating. I know you're not feeling great, so I'm gonna go ahead
Yeah,
and let you go
appreciate it.
because I got some appointments to take care of myself.
All
But
right. Well, anytime, I'm happy to come back. I love talking with you, Drew. You are exactly embodying what this new real estate space is. So I appreciate that.
I thank you for that too, and you are setting the foundation for this generation yourself. So thank you,
Thank you.
Nadine. You
Thank
have a great evening. I'll talk to you soon.
you. All right. Peace out, y'all.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Hey, one more thing, actually, Nadine. Let me.
Yeah, hit it.
Where can we find you? What do you need? What can we bring value to you? I was so selfish in this conversation. It was just a
Oh,
conversation.
not at all.
Let's bring some value to you. Where can we find you? I'll have you shoot me the stuff so I can put in the YouTube. You're going up on YouTube,
Yeah, sure.
comments, description stuff. But let us know.
So my social media handles are Investor Nadine, no space, and that's on YouTube and Instagram. I'm just getting that going, so be patient with me. I'm old and I don't know all the tricks that y'all young people know, but I'm trying.
It'll be
I'm getting it. I'm
work.
getting in there.
It'll be down here. Don't worry about it.
All right. So that's where you can find me. I just started a podcast as well, and I'm trying to keep up with the YouTube and the Instagram stuff. As far as this new unit that I just got, I hopefully I want to document how I can transform it into a medium term rental and what it takes to do that. So I'm excited about that prospect. Nervous, of course, but excited at the same time.
You
And
got this.
yeah, it's gonna be good. It can't not be good. I got help, I got support, and when the mistakes come up, because I'm sure they will, I know where to turn to get help. So I'm excited about that. And what do I need? I think like most people now, capital, right? No matter how much money, if you start off with your own $1 million, you're gonna run out. You're gonna need more. So capital, 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 and at this point, really partners. Um, for learning, right? I really want to JV with people who have already done what I want to start so that I can learn firsthand. I like learning one at a time. I love hand holding the first time so I can learn it and then I'm good to go on my own. So if you are out there and you're in these spaces and you need to JV, reach out to me. I want to learn. I want to learn and I want to give back too, but I want to learn what I need so I can give to the next person.
Awesome. Right from wrong viewers. You're watching, you're listening. She needs money. This is a good woman doing good things.
Yeah.
And she's ready to learn. Midterm, short term. She's ready to get it. Right.
Yeah.
So let's go. I appreciate you, Nadine. I'm gonna let you go this time for real.
All right. Y'all be
Thank you
good.
so much. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Take care.